All right, Steelers Nation, let's jump right into this because there's a lot to unpack and a lot of questions that still need answers. The biggest headline, of course, is the introduction of Mike McCarthy as the new head coach. And while that announcement has certainly stirred up a lot of noise, I think the most interesting storyline might actually be the quarterback situation. Not because we're expecting fireworks right away, but because the future of the franchise could hinge on what happens in the next few months, especially when you consider what Art Rooney said about Kenny Pickett and the potential he sees in him. That's a pretty big statement, and it's one that has fans and analysts alike trying to read between the lines. Now, let's be clear. Kenny Pickett has not played a snap in a regular season game yet. Not a single one. He hasn't thrown a pass in a preseason game either. So when you hear praise and optimism coming from people inside the organization and from outside analysts, it's important to keep things in perspective. The fact is, there hasn't been any real on-field evidence yet. The excitement around him is based on potential, and potential is a tricky thing in the NFL. It can become greatness, or it can become a cautionary tale. And the only way we'll know which direction Pickett goes is by actually seeing him play when it counts. That said, there's a reason why this conversation is happening now. When Pickett was injured last season, it wasn't just a minor setback. It was a significant moment that changed the trajectory of his development. Not getting into those preseason games was a missed opportunity for him to build momentum, gain confidence, and show what he could do under real NFL conditions. The Steelers organization was reportedly disappointed by this, and you can understand why. A young quarterback needs reps. He needs experience. He needs to be able to stand in the pocket and make mistakes and learn from them. Without that, he's always going to be playing catch-up. So the big question becomes, what happens next? Are the Steelers going to commit to Pickett as the long-term answer? Or are they going to look elsewhere? And if they do look elsewhere, what does that mean for the roster and for the direction of the franchise? It's not as simple as just drafting another quarterback. If the Steelers bring in a new quarterback through the draft or free agency, that immediately changes the dynamics of the room. Suddenly, you've got multiple young quarterbacks who have never started an NFL game, and that can create uncertainty and competition that might not be healthy for the team. One of the scenarios that people have been talking about is the possibility of the Steelers bringing in a veteran quarterback to stabilize the position while Pickett continues to develop. That's not a crazy idea. In fact, it's a strategy that has worked for a lot of teams in recent years. But the Steelers have to be careful about who they bring in. If they bring in someone like Malik Willis, for example, it signals that they are looking for a quarterback who can compete immediately, not someone who is simply there to mentor Pickett. And that could create a situation where Pickett's path to the starting role becomes even more complicated. The other option is to look at someone with more experience, perhaps a quarterback like Justin Fields, who has already started games in the NFL and has shown flashes of being a dynamic playmaker. But that also comes with risks. Fields is still young, and he's still developing. Bringing in a quarterback like that could mean that the Steelers are betting on a higher ceiling, but it also means they are taking on more uncertainty. And in a league where winning now is often prioritized over building for the future, that kind of gamble can be tough to justify. And then there's the draft. The Steelers could decide to take another quarterback in the next draft, but that introduces a new set of complications. If they draft another young quarterback, suddenly you've got a crowded room with 3 quarterbacks who have never played in a regular season game. That's not an ideal situation for a team that is trying to build stability. It's one thing to have competition, but it's another thing entirely to have too much uncertainty at the most important position on the field. So what does all of this mean? It means that the Steelers are at crossroads. They have a young quarterback who has shown potential, but who has yet to prove himself in game action. They have a new head coach who is coming in with a reputation for offensive success, but who also has to navigate a roster that has been in a bit of transition. And they have a fan base that is hungry for results, but also cautious about getting too excited too soon. The truth is, this offseason is going to be a test of the Steelers' long-term vision. Do they believe in Kenny Pickett enough to give him a real chance to develop and lead the team? Or do they decide that the quarterback position needs to be addressed more aggressively, whether through free agency or the draft? The answer to that question will shape the franchise for years to come, and it's why every word that comes out of the organization's mouth right now is being dissected and analyzed. At the end of the day, what we're really waiting for is clarity. We want to know what the plan is. We want to know whether the Steelers are going to commit to Pickett or whether they're going to look for an alternative. And we want to know how Mike McCarthy plans to build his staff and his system around whoever is under center. Because the quarterback position is not just about the player. It's about the entire ecosystem that surrounds him. The coaches, the scheme, the supporting cast, and the mindset of the organization. So as we wait for the next few weeks to unfold, the best thing Steelers Nation can do is stay patient, but stay engaged. This is a pivotal moment for the franchise, and there is still a lot we don't know. But the potential is there, and the stakes are high. The decisions that are made now will determine whether the Steelers are heading toward a resurgence or whether they're going to face another season of uncertainty. Either way, one thing is clear. The quarterback story is far from over, and the next chapter is going to be fascinating. All right, Steelers Nation, let's keep this rolling because the quarterback question is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The other big issue that keeps popping up is the way this coaching hire went down. The process, the timing, the lack of transparency, all of it has left a lot of fans feeling uneasy. And to be honest, I get it. When you see a team like the Steelers, a franchise built on tradition and stability, suddenly make a move that feels rushed or lacking in clarity, it's natural to question whether this is really the right direction. But at the same time, it's important to separate the emotional reaction from the practical reality. The Steelers have hired a coach with a proven track record, someone who has won at the highest level, and that alone should not be dismissed. One of the biggest criticisms has been the lack of interviews with other candidates, especially the fact that they did not interview some of the top names that were rumored to be in the running. Fans have pointed out that there were potentially better options, coaches who could bring a fresh approach, more modern offensive concepts, and a stronger ability to develop young quarterbacks. That argument is not without merit. In today's NFL, the most successful teams are the ones that innovate, the ones that are willing to adapt, and the ones that have coaches who can maximize the talents of their players. So it's understandable why some fans feel like the Steelers miss an opportunity to do something bold. But here's the thing. Sometimes the best move is the one that brings stability. Mike McCarthy is a coach who has managed an offense at an elite level. He has experience, he has a track record, and he understands what it takes to win in the NFL. And while the process may not have been ideal, the end result is a coach who can provide leadership and structure to a team that has been searching for answers. The Steelers have always been a team that values discipline, toughness, and a certain identity, and McCarthy fits that mold in many ways. He may not be the most flashy hire, but he is a hire that can bring consistency. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what about the staff? What about the coordinators? And that's a fair question because the coordinators are going to play a massive role in how this team looks on the field. The head coach sets the tone, but the coordinators are the ones who actually run the game plan and develop the players on a day-to-day basis. If the Steelers are going to succeed, they need to hire the right people to support McCarthy. They need coaches who can develop the offense, coaches who can help the quarterbacks, and coaches who can bring energy and innovation to the staff. Because let's be honest, the Steelers have not been known for having the most dynamic offensive approach in recent years. If they want to compete at the highest level, they need to modernize. That being said, I think it's important to give the process some time. We don't know who the coordinators are yet, and that could change the entire narrative. If McCarthy brings in innovative minds, if he brings in coaches who are willing to push the boundaries and adapt to the strengths of the roster, then this hire could look a lot better. But if he brings in a staff that feels like more of the same, then the concerns are valid. The coordinators will reveal a lot about the true direction of the team, and that's why it's such a critical part of this story. Another point that has come up is the idea that the Steelers might be trying to avoid a complete overhaul. There's a sense that the organization wanted to keep things familiar, to keep the identity of the team intact. And I get that. The Steelers have a brand, a culture, and a way of doing things that has defined them for decades. But the NFL is changing, and the teams that are falling behind are the ones that cling too tightly to the past. The Steelers have to find a way to evolve without losing what makes them who they are. That's a delicate balance, and it's not easy to achieve. The fan reaction has been intense, and it's easy to see why. When you've built a reputation as one of the most respected franchises in football, every decision is going to be scrutinized. People are emotionally invested, and they want to see the team succeed. And when they feel like a decision doesn't align with what they believe is best for the team, the reaction can be strong. But at the same time, it's important to remember that the front office is trying to make decisions based on what they believe will work. They have access to information that fans don't, and they have to think about the long-term future of the franchise. That doesn't mean they're always right, but it does mean that they have a perspective that fans may not fully understand. Now, let's talk about the possibility of McCarthy bringing in a larger staff. One of the points that was raised in a fan message is that the Steelers could benefit from having a bigger coaching team, more specialists, and more resources devoted to the development of players. That's not a bad idea at all. The modern NFL is a complex league, and the teams that succeed are the ones that invest in analytics, in player development, and in specialized coaching. If the Steelers are going to take the next step, they need to invest in the infrastructure that supports winning. And that includes hiring the right people, giving them the resources they need, and creating an environment where players can thrive. At the same time, there's a concern that the Steelers may not want to spend the money required to build a modern coaching staff. That's a legitimate worry, because investing in a staff is expensive, and the organization may be hesitant to go down that path. But if the goal is to compete, then the investment is necessary. The teams that are winning now are not just winning because of talent. They're winning because of preparation, coaching, and innovation. The Steelers have to be willing to make that commitment if they want to stay competitive. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a place of uncertainty, but also a place of hope. The Steelers have a coach who has won at the highest level. They have a quarterback with potential, and they have a fan base that is passionate and engaged. The next few months will be critical in determining whether this hire is a step forward or a step sideways. We're going to learn a lot from the coordinator hires, from the draft, and from how the team approaches the offseason. And while the fan reaction may be mixed right now, I think it's important to remember that this is not the end of the world. It's not the end of football in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are still a respected franchise with a proud history, and they still have the pieces to build something special. But the decisions made in the coming weeks will shape the future, and that's why this is such an important moment. So stay tuned, stay engaged, and keep watching, because the next chapter is going to be one of the most fascinating ones in recent Steelers history. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has sent ripples through the NFL rumor mill, the Pittsburgh Steelers are reportedly making internal decisions that seem to heavily favor head coach Mike McCarthy. While the organization has remained tight-lipped, sources close to the team suggest that recent discussions within the front office indicate a strategic alignment with McCarthy's vision for the franchise. This development comes amid growing speculation about the direction of the team and its leadership, fueling debates among fans and analysts alike. Insiders hint that the Steelers are preparing to give McCarthy more autonomy over personnel decisions, potentially reshaping the roster in a way that aligns with his coaching philosophy. While the specifics are murky, the signals coming from the organization suggest a vote of confidence in the coach, whose tenure has been under scrutiny in past seasons. Observers note that such moves could signify a long-term commitment, possibly insulating McCarthy from the usual pressures that accompany a high-profile NFL coaching role. This internal shift, however, has sparked questions across the league. Some analysts argue that giving McCarthy expanded authority could be a gamble, especially in a franchise known for its storied history and passionate fan base. Others see it as a logical step, believing that stability in the coaching staff may translate to more consistent performance on the field. Rumors abound that discussions behind closed doors have touched on everything from draft strategies to salary cap management, all with McCarthy's imprint in mind. Meanwhile, fans on social media are buzzing with speculation. Some interpret the move as a quiet endorsement, signaling that the Steelers are ready to fully back their coach despite recent ups and downs. Others wonder whether this is simply a strategic maneuver to buy time or maintain internal cohesion while evaluating other options. Either way, the murmurs from Pittsburgh suggest that the team's next moves will be closely watched, not just locally but across the league. If these rumors hold any weight, McCarthy could soon wield unprecedented influence over the Steelers' future, positioning him as a central figure in what may become a significant period of transition for the franchise. The NFL landscape is watching, and insiders suggest that the coming weeks could reveal just how much trust the Steelers are willing to place in their head coach. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.